Kids want to go to the pool. I want to talk baseball. So my day's set.
As long as it's not that hot.
No, it's not that bad.
Dan, how are you?
Never better. I'm enjoying my Sunday off, a rare Sunday off. Nowadays, at least.
Nowadays, now we're talking. All right. The overall haul of today's episode, we'll preview the 2023 Major League Baseball trade deadline, which is Tuesday. We will also talk about the deals that have already taken place. Before we hit record and go live, Mark and I were already discussing the deal of yesterday to the Max. Max Scherzer dealt from the Mets to the Texas Rangers for Luis Angel Acuna, who is the younger brother of Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Braves. All right. Mark, we were talking about this before. Let's just go into the first part, which is just overall reaction to Scherzer to the Rangers.
Well, let's make it clear. Max Scherzer wants to be somewhere where he feels he can do the best for the organization. He has not had a good year since the BS with the resin sweat incident. And I think it really messed with him a little bit and changed the way he did things. And that hurt his pitching style, hurt what he was doing. Things started falling apart. And whether it was he who initiated or the office talked with him, we will not know, but we do know that he was very upset with the David Robertson trade to the Marlins. I mean, they got some picks back, but we'll see what they'll do in the minor leagues. But you could see he was really, really angry about it. And Steve Cohen didn't beat around the bush. He said, you want to leave, then you got to waive your no trade clause. So when first Texas was mentioned, the first name that came to mind was Jack Leiter. I truly thought that this was the play to go get Mets ace, Al Leiter's son, who is already better than his father ever was. And that's, something to say. I mean, the kid is straight fire, but I also don't want to burn somebody out like we've done with many pitchers in our lifetime. So Max going to Texas for Acuna. The good thing about Acuna is he can play second base and he can also play the outfield. Something a little bit like his brother does, can do. We haven't really seen Ronald in the infield much ever. Always in right. So we'll see. But am I shocked? No. Am I happy? I was happy when we got him. I mean, I guess you can't be happy you traded the one guy, you traded a guy you want, but I would say it's kind of a relief knowing that the anger and the stress is not going to be there because he's trying to over-perfect himself. Now's the time for the young guys to come up and do it.
Mm-hmm. Dan?
I mean, it was a very disappointing Mets season. It has been. They have, I think underachieve is not even the right word for it. It's been a disaster. It's been, really tough to swallow. Annoying. And the excuses keep piling on and piling on and piling on. And Billy Epler, right now he has to think about the future of this ball club. You have Pete Alonso, who you're keeping for a long time. Or at least that's what Met fans think right now. And that should be the plan moving forward. So you're going to have the slugger and Pete Alonso for a long time, if you hope so. And then you got young kids coming up here. You have Alvarez, who's good. You have Beatty, who's good. Vientos, slow start, but I think he'll be good. If you have a chance to start, not necessarily from scratch, because you have your young players coming up already, but if you have a chance to add on to the young squad that you already have now, you might as well just do that. That's why I even argue, what would it take to get rid of that Marte contract too? You know, and I know you want to keep Verlander because you just got him and he's actually good. But would it also hurt to send Verlander somewhere else? I'm just saying now is a perfect time for the Mets to start rethinking because this, excuse me, this massive payroll and trying to win now didn't work. And it's not going to work. So think big and start grabbing the young players. Build for the future. You can always get free agents down the road. There's going to be plenty of free agents down the road that could really boost the team. But right now you have a golden opportunity with these young players to really, really, really build something special for years to come.
I think you hit a couple of keys, Dan. The first key was Billy Epler. And I will be the first person to tell you, and I won't be the last person. Billy Epler struck out last year at the trade deadline. What he did didn't work. He struck out this past winter when most Met fans will tell you they needed another bat. And, we all know the Carlos Correa thing fell through. That's a freak thing. He has a chance to redeem it here at the trade deadline. The Robertson deal, which we can get into in a minute as well. First piece, Robertson signed on for 1 year. Scherzer has has the opt-in, which he did with Texas for $43 million. So him coming back wasn't a guarantee either. I get it. He was never going to walk away from $43 million. Whole nother conversation. But you said the name Justin Verlander. And to me, Mark and I were talking about this before we started recording. I get it. They're 6.5, 7.5 out of the wild card. Do I think they're done? Part of me wants to be an optimist and say, no, you're not out of it till the fat lady sings. But a part of me, and this is where I'm going to give Billy Epler credit, this team hasn't earned the right to wait until tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday to make deals on all of these guys. They haven't earned that right because they haven't put anything together, any constant streaks outside of a 6-game winning streak right before the All-Star break. And they quickly fouled that up right after the break.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to your Verlander point, the Mets pitching staff has really let them down this year in a number of different ways. Scherzer, despite being 9-4, hasn't been his best, but I also got to remember he's 38, 39 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Kodai Senga has been the most consistent pitcher they've had. I've got to remember he's a rookie. Verlander missed the first month. Outside of that, he's been really good for the most part. The regression of David Peterson and Tyler McGill have really set them back, which means to me, I don't have faith in those two guys right now. Now, they can earn it back by the end of the year. And don't get me started on Carlos Carrasco, because I would send that guy to Timbuktu.
Wait, isn't that the guy the Mets tried to have in the earlier part of the year? Oh no, I forgot. He's the one name not mentioned in right field who's on first line. That's what we think about.
There you go. So I think you have to keep Verlander, and you build your rotation next year with Verlander and Senga at the top. Senga's development this year allows Max Scherzer to be traded because now you know what Kodai Senga is.
Kodai Senga's, sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Kodai Senga has come in his rookie year and with all the different attitudes and personalities, Mike hit on one word: consistency. And I just want to mention that he is going to give up 2 to 3 walks a game because of the way that forkball goes. We've come to understand that. In the beginning, we were worried about it. But he's giving you the same stats. The bats are not giving him the runs to win. And if he goes 7 innings and gives up 2 hits, but 1 earned run, and the Mets can't put a run on the board, is it his fault or is it the organization's fault? So,
Perfect example was the start he had in Arizona before the All-Star break. He throws 8 shutout innings. They're down 1-0 in the 9th when Alvarez ties the game, and then they eventually win the game. So Senga's been great. It's everyone else. Verlander has been fine. I'm not going to criticize him. You talked about the development of the young guys, and that's the other part, Dan. It's Beatty, Alvarez, Vientos. They're going to grow. You can't rely on them at the moment, despite how great Francisco Alvarez has been. The regressions of Jeff McNeil, who won the batting title last year, that's been a key. Marte, you mentioned the contract. He's had a down year. The 3 guys you could really talk up in the lineup, Alonso's had a great year because he's got the 30 homers again. Lindor's got 20, and Nimmo's been pretty good for the most part. But if you look at the batting averages, they're not high enough. They're hitting 220, 230, 250.
212.
This is a team last year that didn't do that. The guys, the averages were up. The walk rates were up. They weren't chasing pitches out of the strike zone. So I don't know what's happened in that year since last year. I also think the Brave series in September got into their heads a little bit when they got swept out the door. But if you're thinking of 2024, in my personal opinion, I would keep Justin Verlander.
Now, I still think that the Lindor contract is it's still too early to tell what that's going to be like. I understand Met fans have a lot of concerns about him as well because he hasn't performed to the level that he's supposed to, like the Lindor we saw with the Indians. But at the same time, I also don't want to jump the gun because what if Lindor actually becomes a really solid Met down the road, and then you all win a World Series, and it's just like, okay, well, I don't want to jump the gun there too.
Here's an interesting Lindor stat for you. Last night he hit his 20th home run of the season. He's been a 20 home run guy every year outside of 2020, basically.
Yeah.
But speaking as from a home run perspective, Dan, I know you can agree. The Yankees players can hit home runs as shown. Judge, Stanton, even Glaber's having a great resurgence year, But it's not home runs that is always going to win you the game. You can't rely on a ball hit 430 feet to tie a ball game. Small ball needs to be taught all over again. Base hits, doubles.
In this analytics world, I don't know about that.
But I'm saying the teams can't rely on home runs, and that's what Mets are expecting out of people like Vogelback. He's going to come up and be Babe Ruth and hit a home run every time.
But Vogelback stinks. That's the problem. He's not good.
Right. The time is now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, look, you have a chance to off a lot of these contracts. And you also have a chance to have another season to reevaluate contracts. And that's the process here. It's what can you get rid of now that we know is terrible? And what can we look into later that we're still iffy about, but we want to give it another shot because why not?
I'll tell you
Zach
this.
is not going to be one of those people where you're going to be like, well, why not leave that for later? No, you got to DFA him and trade him or get rid of him completely because he offers nothing to the lineup. Nothing.
I'll tell you this. You brought up the Marte contract earlier, and I've read, I don't know how true this is, that the Mariners would be willing to unload one of their young starters in a deal for a controllable player. I would have no issues dealing a Starling Marte to Seattle for one of their young pitchers.
Well, which one?
If I got my pick,
Yes.
if I had my pick,
I mean, not saying there's
I-
one better.
if I could get Logan Gilbert or George Kirby out of that, I would do it.
Gilbert over Kirby.
Yeah.
Your hatred of Nintendo characters is just wrong in so many ways.
Yeah, now if it's gonna be that, that's how it's got to be. Gilbert definitely. If
That's the deal, if that, if the Mariners want a little bit more, we'll wait and see. But that's just a thought process.
for me, here it goes, Dan. This is gonna go when you said the Mets have a lot of these young starters. I'm picturing only one other team that has real movable pieces for the Mets to make one huge move. And could it help save the season and get to the wild card? Not necessarily, but it definitely would put stuff in perspective for next year. The Mets trade Mark Vientos, Ronnie Mauricio, and probably Tom Bidwell, who's in Double-A, for Josh Hader and Juan Soto, providing physical passes and the willingness to sign long-term extensions.
But you're going to bank on Hader really having a comeback season because
Give him half a year in New York, and then he gets a full year.
He has not been good with San Diego.
And neither really has Soto.
But that's why I think they can be a steal. And yes, when I say a steal, I'm talking about trading two of the Mets' top 3 prospects. Let's face it, we saw Vientos fielding in the last couple of weeks. It was not good.
Yeah.
Okay. He fits as a DH. Mauricio is just not, there's no place to let him play. So that's why he's not coming up. But
you throwing out these morons out there. That's why.
Exactly. So if they're not going to trade these two plus a decent pitcher and make this deal, bring Juan Soto, he goes to right. You want to send Marte over there in another conjunction for somebody like Cronenworth, then we're talking bigger.
And they just signed Cronenworth to another pretty big deal.
So it depends on what you can get right now. That's what it's coming down to. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, you're fine. To me, if you're offloading the Robertson, who we'll talk about in a second, you're offloading Scherzer. I'm just at the point where not that you've given up on 2023, because I still think there's a valuable lesson here in the season that can be learned.
Yeah.
But guys like Vientos, guys like Beatty, guys like Mauricio need to come up. Mauricio needs to come up, play him. We talked before. I don't need to see Danny Mendick because I know he's not a part of the future. I don't need to see Daniel Vogelbach because I know he's not a part of the future. This is about building what is to come for 2024. That is what this is now become. This is not about this year, despite being 7 out, whatever it is in the wild card. This is now about the young players playing and showing what they have. Speaking of the Robertson deal, he went to the Marlins, and a deal for Marco Vargas and Ronald Hernandez, ranked 18th and 21st respectively in the Marlins farm system.
Both have some upside, but we'll see.
My biggest problem with this
deal.
It is.
Like the problem I had was these guys aren't even in A ball. They're in the Florida Complex League. So
Correct.
they're not going to make an impact at least for another 5-6 years. And
Unless
David
they
Robertson
trade
was
him again.
probably the best closer on the market, and you couldn't do better. I listen. And then I read people online saying this is a fine deal. So I'll digress on it a little bit, but
It's a good deal for the Marlins.
listen, if you want to bring Robertson back next year, I don't have an issue with that.
But he's not going to be the closer. He has to understand.
No, Diaz is, but I think he would know that because I think he signed on to be the eighth inning guy this year before the stupid World Baseball
WBC.
Classic struck. All right, so there's your little Mets talk. If we get into what could be further, we will. Other deals that have happened. The Dodgers have made a couple of deals.
Mhm.
They acquired Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly from the White Sox in exchange for minor league pitcher Nick Nastrini,
Yep.
Jordan Leisure, and outfielder Trace Thompson, better known as Clay's brother.
Okay. It's kind of cool.
Apparently, he was originally drafted by the White Sox. So
Joe Kelly is a pitcher, correct?
Joe Kelly's a reliever.
Yeah. Okay. I got the right person.
yeah,
That's all I want to make sure.
The dude, the troublemaker, basically.
So the Dodgers needing bullpen help just got two good pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe Kelly's has always been a good reliever. Like I said, troublemaker. But the Dodgers like him enough to bring him back. So that's good on them. Not shocked by Lance Lynn either. I mean, that's also a pretty solid deal for them. Gives them a little more depth in that side of baseball.
Listen, I'll say this. The Dodgers needed another guy in the rotation. Dustin May's out for the year. Who knows when Walker Ferris Bueller's coming back, if he comes back. Kershaw's currently hurt. So their rotation is Julio Arias, Tony Gonsolin, and a bunch of dudes. Hell, they just traded Noah Syndergaard for Ahmed Rosario in a trade of Mets legends.
I found that funny as well.
I thought it was hilarious. But so the Dodgers needed that. The bullpen, everyone's looking for bullpen arms. Joe Kelly, I think, was already there at one point. But I liked Lance Lynn on the market, one of my favorites. I'm going to revert back to the Mets because we had the conversation before. So, Mark, the Mets put out their lineup for this afternoon's game against the National Treasures. It consists of Brandon Nimmo leading off, Francisco Lindor hitting second, Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso. Who's hitting behind Pete Alonso at DH?
Me.
You sure about that one?
I don't know. My spine is attached, so it's a possibility.
All right. Well, you're not Daniel Vogelback.
Hmm.
Followed by Mark Canha, Brett Beatty, Omar Narvaez, and once again, Danny Mendick.
Why look?
Listen,
I know you have to have a DH, but use it smarter. It's an automatic double play.
this is my point. This was the point we just made. If you're gonna sell off, you have to play the kids. It's not, and this is not a knock on Trevor Williams. He was a good Met. Let Vientos cook. Let's see it.
Yep.
All right. So figure I'd just get that out of the way before we move on with this. The White Sox also made another deal with the Angels, trading Lucas Giolito. I covered that Thursday, but your guys' thoughts on Giolito to the Angels.
First things first, White Sox. It's dreadful that they're selling. And it's a shame because I thought that team was gonna really, really pop out, and it just hasn't worked out. So they made the right decision to sell. And they're just gonna have to restart everything in Chicago, and that's just one of the most brutal scenarios. As for the Angels, they just told us something in that trade that Shohei ain't going anywhere, and that's what I pretty much expected. And that they're trying to go for a playoff spot now, which is, to me, I just don't think it's the right time to be going for a playoff spot because they're clearly not ready for the playoffs. But there are going to be buyers here, so they're going to go for it, and we're just going to have to deal with it in the American League. As much as I hate it, they're just going to have to deal with it in the American League. Not dealing Shohei is a money-making move because they know Shohei is going after a massive home run chase if he's healthy enough. I know he's been hurt a couple times these past couple weeks. So his bats haven't been clean. He's still hitting the ball though, but still haven't been too clean.
He's cramping up from carrying this team on his gosh darn back.
Yeah, exactly. But they know he's going to be in a massive playoff chase, if home run chase, if he stays healthy, which means Japanese media is getting involved. There's going to be tickets sold. There's going to be a lot of things. So it's a money-making move for Anaheim to keep Shohei. It has nothing to do with whether or not they want to get prospects back.
Mark, anything here?
Lucas Giolito, Mike, you and I have talked over the last couple of weeks how he would have been a good addition to help out the Mets rotation, but there was just nothing that the Mets were going to offer. And it's not
I even
that
meant
it was
as
enough.
a free agent you could do, but go on.
Right. There was talk about it. It's a solid move for the Angels. I mean, even though the Angels really took a bad loss last night with Tyler Ward, unfortunately, the pitch that hit him in the face, it was obviously not on purpose. He has facial fractures all around where he got hit. Otherwise, okay, but the Angels just lost a very big piece of their outfield for probably the rest of this season, unless he pulls a Kevin Pillar, and we'll see. Comes back with the face mask. So,
and that's on top of Trout already being out,
right?
And
so I
we
say
don't know
to
when
Dan,
he's coming back.
Right. So I say to Dan, I understand your answer. This is a power move to try to keep Ohtani where he is because they couldn't deal him. I think the only reason they didn't deal him is that they did not have any confidence that any teams would give them anything they wanted for it. So they're saying, let's keep him for the year. He could get it, and then we can be the first to offer. We can get that respect. Maybe they give him the offer he wants, and he stays there that way.
He's been with the Angels since 2018.
Yep.
And he's gotten absolutely nothing out of that ball club. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes you think that this season, however it ends, is going to change his perspective on where he wants to go? We know he wants something better. The Angels can offer him a lot of money. We know that.
Yes.
But it's a matter of what's going to be the team in 2024. That's the problem. And it's wrong for the Angels to just keep him because it's a money-making move for them. Because that's what they care about right now. They're not caring about whether or not they want to build for the future. They know for a fact Shohei's going to leave. That's my problem.
See, what I look at it is, it's going to have to be at least, it's going to be a Trout breaking number. So $550, $600 million. And it's not going to be 10, 12 years. This is going to be a 6 to 7 year deal option, and with an option, player option, not opt out, player option. And most of it guaranteed, however they want to do it. I don't think any team after the Lindor, Seager, Rendon trades that happened, and we showed how bad they were. And I'm not saying the Lindor contract is bad. Like you said, Dan, it's only 3 years in, so we can't really give a good perspective. If when we're 5 years in, we'll have a better way to look at it. I don't think teams are going to hand out 10-year contracts anymore. Hence, Aaron Judge taking less years and the same amount of money you would have gotten. So I think a change is going to happen, but there are only going to be so many hands that can sit at the table and play the game.
I think the thing that hurts I've said this in the past on this show and others. You don't want to be known as who wants to be known as the executive who trades Shohei Ohtani? Who wants to be known as that guy? The Angels are 5 back in the wild card. The problem they're going to have is they've lost this current series they're playing to the Blue Jays. They've lost the season series now to the Toronto Blue Jays. So that's one team in front of you that you will not have a tiebreaker over. So, argument's sake, the Yankees are 3.5 back. I don't like saying it. I trust the Yankees more than I do the Angels. The Red Sox are 2.5 back of the wild card. The way they're playing, I trust the Red Sox more than I trust the Angels. And I don't think the Angels are better than any of these 3 wild card teams. They're not better than Tampa. They're not better than Toronto. They're not better than the Astros. That's the perspective for me, because this team, they don't have a number 2 pitcher behind Ohtani. I know they went out and got Giolito here. Giolito struggled the past couple of years, and I like Lucas Giolito. I think he'd be a really good pitcher. But that lineup, Matt Chapman said this to John Schneider Friday night, the Blue Jays manager. Ohtani's I'm paraphrasing this. Ohtani's the only guy in their lineup doing damage. Why would you pitch to him? They don't hit otherwise. I have to rely on Mickey Moniak and guys like that. It's a tough look.
Phillies rookie.
It's a tough look. And I get it. You're going to go and you're going to do whatever you can to convince him to stay. I would have considered biting the bullet here and saying, listen, it hasn't worked for us. And a big part of it is the contract you mentioned, Rendon. The Rendon contract has been brutal since he signed it. And that's had a huge impact on them.
Ever. One of the worst contracts in history.
And look, they've done this before. Josh Hamilton's contract with them was bad. CJ Wilson's contract with them is bad. I will never say a bad word about Albert Pujols, but you knew what you were getting with Albert Pujols in his late 30s.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, the Angels have said they're not trading Ohtani, and they're quote unquote buyers.
They're not buyers.
No, they're not.
No.
All right.
That's him.
All right, Dan. With the trade deadline Tuesday, I'll ask this. What do you want the Yankees to do?
Well, now they're teasing us a little bit. And this is what I hate about the Yankees. They're bad throughout the entire season until the dog days of summer, late July, early into August and everything. They get everyone healthy, and then all of a sudden everyone wants to do well, like they did last night against Baltimore. They beat up Baltimore like crazy. I am still in the belief that if you sell, it doesn't mean that the Yankees are going to be bad in 2024. It just means we have a reset. Because as much as I want to make the playoffs every year, what is this Yankees team going to do against a team like the Rays, like the Orioles, or like the Rangers, Astros? Like, what are they going to do against those teams?
Mike?
Well, the thing, I think the Yankees' big moves is just activating guys off the injured list. Judge just came back. Eventually, they'll get Nestor Cortez back. I think I think they kind of have to stand pat here, unless
That also wouldn't be a bad idea.
like here's the thing. Are you in a position to where you feel your prospects are good enough to land you a stud? Listen, Garrett Cole at the top of the rotation has been great this year. Rodon is coming off a good start for the first time. Then I could throw in Cortez and Clark Schmidt and Domingo Herman, who's inconsistent at best. Then I go around this team. Rizzo's not going anywhere because he's under contract for another year.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to trade Glaber, although I wouldn't mind seeing them move Glaber, but maybe in the winter you could figure that out. Volpe's played a decent shortstop. You're probably not upgrading there.
No, he's fine.
If LeMahieu's at third, I don't know the best third baseman on the market because the Cardinals just pulled Arenado. And can you really justify paying LeMahieu what you're paying him to sit on the bench when you already have Josh Donaldson hurt? So then you got to go to the outfield. Judge is back. He's not going anywhere. Bader, you just got to get on your hands and knees and pray to the Lord above that he stays healthy. The ghost of Aaron Hicks in left field has been fantastic. If you want to go get an outfielder, call St. Louis. They've got a bunch of them, to be honest with you. And then maybe you need a catcher, but again, I don't know the best catcher on the market. So we're looking at positions of catcher and probably left field, and we don't even know their market.
When you look at the Yankees, you know what I see is I see basically another version of what the Mets are going through. It's finding out who they really are. Okay. The Yankees have a young crop of kids who I actually got to see play. And it's the same thing when the Mets who are up there. I got to see them all play when I was the operations manager over down at the Hudson Valley Renegades. And when you could see both sides of these youngsters play, all you can think of is this is a new Yankees legacy that's going to be starting here. Volpe has proved himself. Oswald Cabrera has had his moments, but the Messiah, the one who was called to be, has not panned out as of yet. And that meaning Jason Dominguez. He's the one who was rushed through the minors, and now he is kind of handicapped down there right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees don't want to call him up. It's crazy.
And that's Brian Cashman.
And it's the same thing with Ronnie Mauricio.
Yeah.
And that's Billy Epler.
Yeah, it's like you wonder whether it's Dominguez that's sort of the outlier there.
You have to think why aren't the Mets bringing up Mauricio? Why aren't the Yankees bringing up Dominguez? Put the best possible team on the field for your team to win.
Yeah.
So they make errors. You already know. As for the Mets are 7.5 out. So they make errors. So what? So they learn. They get more time up here and learn, and they stay active. Yes, they would play a lot more down in AAA. As for the Yankees are only 3.5 games out. So you have to be selective to put your best team out there. You got your outfield set. I think, like Mike said, third base is a weak. Nothing against Higgy. I happen to like the guy, but catching is not your strong point.
Especially with Trevino out for the year now with the wrist issue.
Exactly. So I see, and Dan, I just wanted to hear
you want Tomas Nido?
Yeah, we could probably, everybody can go get Tomas Nido. Actually, with him at Yankee Stadium, a fly ball would be a home run. So that's a benefit to them.
Sure.
Can you imagine a scenario where Tomas Nido comes to the Yankees, helps out with the catching situation, and all of a sudden he turns out to be a stud? That would be a total.
That is a same kind of Mets. That's the most Mets thing that would ever
it's happened before. It happened with Chris Young.
Yep.
Remember Chris
I'll never
Sale? He was
forget.
awful for the Mets, and then all of a sudden he came to the Yankees. He was hitting bombs like crazy. Look, I don't want to give false hope to Yankee fans. I'm not letting them ruin my summer. I'm not gonna let them ruin my fall. But at the same time, I'm not confident in what this team is gonna do when it comes to the end of the season. If that means they're going to the playoffs, I don't know what this team is gonna do at the end of the season. I don't know what they're gonna look like. And let's say they compete for a world championship. Well, they gotta go past an American League that, while it's been a brutal American League this season. But we know that there's some strong spots to the American League, and it's hard.
The whole AL East.
It's hard to come by. It really is. So I just don't want. I don't want the Yankees to tease us. I don't want the Yankees to give us false hope, and I don't want them to act like they're going to win, only to make the playoffs, get out of the first round, and then for Hal Steinbrenner to say, "Well, that's what we want."
Okay, so I have a question for the both of you quickly. I'll go to Dan first. Dan, with the Mets being 7.5 out and the Yankees being 3.5 out, who do you think has the easier path to getting into the playoffs?
That National League is tough. I don't know if the Mets have a chance at all. Now with a sub 500 record, now with the competition that's there. The Yankees have it easier, but at the same time, they need to go on a run now. And they need to stay on a run now.
Okay, so then you're saying the Yankees have the easier path.
Yes. But
Okay.
even the Yankees' easiest path, it's not easy because they still have to play the division and they still have to win games. They still got to make the wild card. And right now it's going to be that third wild card.
Exactly.
And there's like everyone and their mom is going to go for that.
Mike.
The answer is probably the Yankees, but I'll just state the case for the Mets. Dan's right because the American League, you have fewer teams to jump. But the problem is the American League has all these really good teams that the Yankees are eventually going to have to beat. They have to beat the Rays. They have to beat the Astros. The Red Sox have played better than I think anyone has thought they would this year. For the Mets, argument's sake, and this is just me trying to be an internal optimist and give people a reason to watch, outside of just listening to Gary, Keith, and Ron. The Diamondbacks are fading. The Marlins are fading to a degree. The Cubs, I know, have won. I think it's 8 in a row and are rolling. But do I trust that they could keep on that run? No, I don't. I have no idea. But I think the Reds could continue the run they've been on this year. No, because they got to show it to me before they do it. I do think if this Mets team were to get on a run, which, by the way, I said it before, they haven't earned anything. They haven't done that yet. They could get in. The problem is they're not going to make that run.
Okay. Thank you for hearing me.
You have an answer?
Yeah, actually I do. And the reason why I pass it to two of you because I don't want to say it. The Yankees had the easier push they had the easier push, but it's the most challenging push at the same time. Because as both of you have eloquently said, the AL East is just the beast. And that's it.
And here's the thing for the Yankees. This is a huge week coming up. They got 3 with the Rays, and then the Astros come to town. Those are 2 teams in front of you. And
Yankees have to win one of the 2 series.
If you,
have to.
Argument's sake, they go 2-5 in those 7 games or whatever it is, that's bad. You've got to go 4-3, 5-2 in that stretch and plant your flag.
With the route of the Orioles that we saw last night with the Yankees, they scored 8 runs on them. I guess it makes me feel a lot better going into those series than it was last week when I was taping Bombers Banter with Bill Murphy. But at the same time, those are still tougher teams. They're teams that are better in better situations than the Yankees are. So I'm still not as confident. But of course, we could dream just a little bit. I'm going to take it up a level. If the Yankees really want to make a playoff run, if they're really this serious about making a run, they have to win those series outright. Both of them.
Yeah, so it's an interesting week for the Yankees. But to go off something you said, this run would be a lot harder, though, Dan, if Aaron Judge was still out.
Yeah. And
now that the straw that stirs the drink is back,
yeah,
everything lines up better for them.
Yeah. By the way, another big time home run for him last night, which was pretty nice.
By the way, and I'm not saying this to be mean or wish injury on anyone. Can someone throw him a slider in the dirt near his foot just to see how healthy he is? Like realistically, because if you're and people could say this is cynical, it's really not, because it's gamesmanship and you're just seeing how healthy the guy really is. All right. Mark, deadline's Tuesday. What's a deal non-Met related you'd like to see?
Non-Met related.
Yeah, I feel like we went heavy on the Mets.
No, that's fine.
And we'll go heavy on the Mets on the recap show Tuesday.
You know, I look around the league and I look at teams that I know that are looking to move and other teams that are going to try to make a push. I think a team that really has a chance, and I know this might eke Dan a little bit, is the Red Sox. I would like to see the Red Sox bring in another starter. And if the rumor is true that Seattle is willing to give up for somebody who's controllable, the Red Sox have a few that would make that work. And who would it be? I don't know. I'd have to see who Seattle would want. But that would be a smart move for the Red Sox, because as you get past these dog days of summer, you come into September, and I'm sorry, I don't trust the AL when the Yankees are in the bottom in September, because the Yankees are proven to piss me off and will go on a run to win it.
Dan, what's a non-Yankee deal you'd like to see?
I want to see Juan Soto traded.
Ooh, okay.
Because I want the Padres to stick themselves up the ass while they watch their prospects go through the national system and absolutely thrive. And then to watch them pretty much, do the little puppy face crying.
I'll tell you this, CJ Abrams.
The Nationals are making the playoffs while the Nationals are growing and becoming one of the best teams in baseball. They have to be stuck with all these big-time contracts that they've given out. And look, some of those players are good. Tatis is a great player. We know that. But it would be a nice way for that nice little ending to that saga, knowing that the Nationals won that trade. And I will still take it to bed. The Nationals won that trade. The Padres did not.
Yes, CJ Abrams is a stud. Mackenzie Gore is a stud. I'm going to go to Dan's second favorite team out there, the Houston Astros. And the Houston Astros, I'm going to go in the same ballpark as you, Mark. I'd like to see the Astros add a starter. I love Framber Valdez. Christian Javier is really good, but they've relied a lot on young pitchers this year. Lance McCullers is out for the year. They've got another guy who's gone down as well. But if you can get one more starter for the back end of that rotation, they're healthy now. Alvarez and Altuve are back. The Houston Astros mean business. do not sleep on the reigning champs. Sorry. And the Rays. The Rays need to add something here as well, as do the Orioles. But wait and see. Some series to watch this week. We mentioned before, Rays Yankees will be played at the stadium. Also in the AL East, you got the Orioles and the Blue Jays. That should be a fun one. NL East showdown, you got the Phillies and the Marlins. I think a half game separates the two. In the wild card, Reds, Cubs, Angels, Braves, Guardians, Astros, Diamondbacks, Giants, and Red Sox, Mariners. Programming note. Myself, the old ops guy, and a special guest will have a trade deadline recap podcast Tuesday night. We're not sure if it'll be live or if we'll just record it, but that's what's going down Tuesday night. Old ops guy, you wanted to make a quick plug.
Yes. So welcome to the one and only Old Ops guy known in the baseball card world, also known as Kanish. I had been doing most of my business for years at shows, through the quiet lines, through breaking, which I've talked about. There's only one thing over the last 2 years that has made me happy in the card business, and that's watching my daughter do a podcast about cards for our liked company, Top Notch Sports Club, owned by Anthony Laparo. Would love to honor to have Charlotte back once a month to do a record. So I am happy to announce, after talks with Dan, Mike, and Patch, we're going to set up so Charlotte can record and do the one a month. And I will be here a lot more, but not right now. Come football time, expect to see the Old Ops guy on Sunday mornings. But with the NFL Blitz, whatever we're going to call it this year, there will be no shameless plugs on baseball cards because it's football season. So it'll be football cards. You got to just expect that. So if you guys want to check out the most amazing Facebook group for sport card breaking, that's Top Notch Sports Club. The best consignment club along is Top Notch Sports Club. Perfectly said. If you have a card and you're watching this and you want to know the value, you want to have an idea on it, don't go by eBay comp. Send these guys and me a message here. I will do a professional look on the card and give you an online review. No cost. One-time offer. The first person who sends it in gets the one-time free offer on what it can be and grading availability. And then I can tell you where to send to get it graded. But stay tuned, because Old Ops guy will have stuff coming up in September, especially for the network.
Boom.
Big time. Oh.
I don't know how reactions will come to me being live every Sunday, how it's going to work in the SIN affair, but we will figure it out.
We're not concerned.
That we'll have to figure out as we go. Mark, obviously, big news. I'm glad that you made that decision on your own, and we're happy to have you back in some capacity. I know you've really been honing in on your business, and I'm glad that you have been able to start that back up, and that now that you have some time that you could hang out with us a little more. So I'm really happy.
And that's what it's really been more about, is the reason why Old Ops guy took a step back is I was not with my family. Now I am spending more time with my family than ever, and it's great. And doing this at a partial rate is just what I love to do. And I was in major withdrawal from these guys. So we'll be back, as I said, in a small capacity, an article here or there, NFL Sundays, and then the occasional night.
The occasional. But you will hear Mark again Tuesday. Again, we'll do a trade deadline recap. So until then, for Mark, Dan, I'm Mike. Thank you for tuning in to Batter Up here on the Sports Insanity Network, sponsored Halpern's Cards and Collectibles. Follow us on the socials. We're still on Facebook. We're still on. I'm going to call it X marks the spot, despite it still being Twitter. Elon
Oh, my
Musk, you
God.
freak.
What a disgrace.
You and your treasure hunting weirdness. But we're also on Twitter at SInsanityReal. Follow the YouTube page as well and go to the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. Blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. And for Mark, Dan, I'm Mike. We'll talk to you Tuesday night for the trade deadline recap. Have a great Sunday, everybody.
It's